front page a picture of jubilant Crimeans following the vote to join Russia. Its headline reads, "Some people may not like it, but we're happy." And that's a clear reference to both to Ukrainian authorities and the West, both of whom have condemned the Sunday's vote as illegitimate. 95% of those voted opted to join Russia. Izvestia says the unprecedentedly high turnout was the main surprise, even though later added there was no real way of ascertaining figures because Ukrainian election authorities won't release them because it does not recognise the referendum. And the report quotes voter Paul Kuznetsov, who says, "Of course we're Russian. What else are we? Soon we'll be one country, and we hope so."
What about the Ukrainian media? How are they picking
Yeah,
up
well,
on
it's very different, as you can expect. The Kiev Daily Den, or The Day, headlines on its front page, "Pseudo-referendum concerns and proof of fraud." So even if many pro-Kiev Ukrainians boycotted the poll, there are still accusations of tampering even among those that did. Crimean Tatar official Smedliev Zaira says that people were being bussed in Bakhchirasere district and that Russian citizens from outside Ukraine were also taking part in the poll. He says one crime in a legal referendum has facilitated another, electoral fraud, and another Tatar, the Ukrainian MP Mustafa Jezmilieva, estimates that 99% of Tatars boycotted the election, and he says that since Tatars make up 14% of Crimea's population, he finds the 70% turnout very, very doubtful.
Now, the West, of course, has roundly condemned this referendum as illegal. Does it give them any options at all?
Well, The Guardian's editorial reads, "Mr. Putin and the threat of a new Cold War." It describes the increasing suffocation of dissenting voices in the Moscow media, saying that Mr. Putin is turning a soft autocracy into a highly repressive state that appears to be run by a small group of his confidants. And as EU foreign ministers meet in Brussels today to formulate a response to the referendum, The Guardian says that sanctions must now happen if the sovereignty of Ukraine is to be defended, and East and West appear locked on the path to a new and dangerous divide, it concludes.
Now, Oliver's got a real checkmate for us now, because the former chess champion Garry Kasparov, he's been a long-time critic of Putin. He's weighing in with some very heavy words.
Yes, Kasparov writes in an opinion piece in the Washington Daily Politico that Putin is following closely in Adolf Hitler's footsteps right now, and he draws parallels with the Sudetenland annexation and the Anschluss of Austria by the Nazis in 1938. Kasparov is very keen to point out that Putin is not Hitler, and the chess grandmaster is not minimising the horror of the Holocaust. But he says the reaction of the West is very similar to the reaction of Hitler's enemies in 1938. And he says that we cannot forget the harsh lessons that Hitler taught us about the fatal dangers of appeasing a dictator.
Let's move on to something completely different now. Still no sign, of course, of the Malaysian airliner Flight 370, but there are quite a few developments that the papers are looking at, aren't there?
That's right. The Malaysian English language daily, The Straits Times, reports that the final words from the cockpit of the missing aircraft came after the transponders were turned off, which raises the suspicions that one or two of the pilots were involved in the disappearance of the flight. Defence Minister Hishamuddin Hussain announced on Sunday that the last words were, "All right, good night," and that there was no mention of any trouble on board. Now, searches for the missing plane are still in the dark, as satellite recordings suggest that it could have reached anywhere in a huge arc as far north as Kazakhstan or in the South Indian Ocean. Now, the New York Times reports that Malaysian authorities have rejected help from US officials. That's according to the FBI, which has an agent based at the US Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. The US is not treating it as a terrorist attack, but the Times does examine a few possible scenarios, such as Uyghur separatists attacking China, 2/3 of the passengers were Chinese, or also possibility of involvement by Al-Qaeda or the Indonesian Jemaah Islamiyah, both of whom have in the past discussed the possibility of hiring a Malaysian or Indonesian commercial pilot for a terror attack.
And finally from Oliver, it is, of course, St. Patrick's Day today, as we mentioned on the programme. Rather a controversial article on an American website you found.
Yes, Salon.com has an opinion piece with a very provocative headline, "How did Irish Americans get so disgusting?" And it's written by an Irish American, the film critic Andrew O'Hare. O'Hare, who's a liberal, bemoans a community that was historically Democrat voting. It's now giving the world some of the more virulent right-wingers in the US, among them Fox News presenters Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, the Conservative commentator Pat Buchanan, and Republican Senator Peter King. O'Hare also deplores the lifestyle choice which remains the sole Irish American identity today. And he says it is a thoughtful piece, and it studies Irish American history in depth, and also the relationship between the community and the country back home. And you can see his point, even if he is a little bit strident. we in Ireland have always seen our American cousins as well, maybe not more conservative, but certainly a little bit more inflexible in their conservatism. And not too surprising, the article has caused a bit of an uproar on St. Patrick's weekend, with lots of disgust being expressed in the comments alone.
Perfect stuff. We're very lucky, aren't we, to have Oliver and Stephen both sitting around the desk for us today. If you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day today, enjoy it from everyone here at France 24. Coming up for you next, we'll have the latest news, of course. We'll be hearing, in fact, from our chief foreign editor. That's Rob Parsons. He's in Crimea. We'll hear from him in the next half hour. And in today's Focus, with a special report, it's looking at exactly what the Catholic Church is really doing to tackle the problem of paedophile priests. That's in the next half an hour on France 24, so don't go away.